Welcome to Giants Latest. It is officially draft week, so you know what today is. That means it's mock draft Monday. I am going to go through and share with you guys my mock draft. I've done a couple of them, and I felt like this was one of my favorite ones. I have two favorites, so I wanted to share this one with you guys today. If you're interested, maybe I'll share another one with you this week. But I felt like this one did a good job of kind of rounding out all the positions that the Giants needed. I don't know if you guys do mock drafts. I know some people do like 100 of them from January until now. I really only do them this week of the draft, and I try not to do them a lot because no one knows what's really going to happen. But also, sometimes it's frustrating because I'm like, oh no, I wanted this player. I wish I got this one. And it just is what it is. Sometimes you can't always get it to work that way, just like in real life. So let's go ahead and talk through the top three picks of the draft that I did. So obviously at number 3, I picked edge from Penn State, Abdul Carter. There's no surprise here. I've raved about how much I love this guy, and I really think it is extremely possible that Hunter's going to, and the Giants are taking Carter at 3. I love him. I have nothing but good things to say about him. The injury getting cleared, I think, was a big deal, and I just think that I want to get back to the point where I want our defense to be the focus of the team. Do I want an offense like the Bengals? 100%. Do I think it's going to be that this year? No. I think it's more likely that our defense is going to be the star of the show, and I'm on board with that. When the Giants won Super Bowls, their defense was really damn good. So that's what I want to get. But we're going to flip here because my next pick is actually a running back. And I'm not sold on drafting running backs high, but I do think that when it comes to the draft board and the value and things like that, you just have to see how things go and where players get picked. So at pick number 34, I stayed put and I drafted Omarion Hampton, the running back from UNC. There obviously has been a lot of talk about him. He is projected to go in the first round. So on draft night, he might not make it to the Giants at 34. If he does, I'm on board with taking him there because obviously our offense needs a lot of work. We all know that. This is a deep running back class. You don't have to get one as early as 34. But, when we talk about weapons and things that this offense really needs to succeed, I'm on board with getting a running back. So for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to give a quick little brief synopsis about Omarion Hampton. So he is 5'11", 221 pounds. He ran a 4.46 40, and he's got over 9-inch hands. He's projected to go, like I said, between rounds 1 and 2, excuse me. 3-year starter, 2 first-time All-ACCs and 2-time All-American. Smart kid, good player. His stats last year, 1,660 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, impressive, 15 touchdowns. And then he also was used as a wide receiver. So he had 38 receptions for 373 yards. Obviously not as much as a running back. That's fine with me. We got good wide receivers. Like, I'm cool with not always making the running back be a wide receiver because as we have seen, we have some issues with that, right? So let's stick to what they're good at. 9.8 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns. So overall, good season. He was the only back with over 1,000 yards after contact each of the past 2 seasons. Now, if you've listened to my podcast for a while, you know that is something that I have complained about with this Giants team, is that when it comes to running back, it takes one person to knock them down. And then I'm watching like Derrick Henry and it takes like 7 linebackers to get him to the floor. So I love guys that can get the yak yardage. We've seen this with Malik Neighbors last year. We saw it a bit with Tyrone Tracy. So if we're going to go after a running back, that I think is a quality that is extremely important, something that the Giants should focus on. Overall, I think he's a great addition to this team, like I said, but we have to move along or we're going to be here all day. Now, my third pick, someone who I have also talked about a lot on this show that I love, I picked cornerback Adrianna Thomas at 65. Now, I'm not going to really talk much about him because I did a whole section on him in one of my videos, but what you need to know is he's a really good cornerback, a lot of experience coming from Florida State. He's the ideal size and length for a cornerback position. There have been some comps that have compared him to Sauce Gardner. If you're a Giants fan, we know all about Sauce Gardner and what he's capable of doing. So if we go after a corner, I'm on board with Adrianna Thomas. Now, let's move along to my next 3 picks because I did do a trade which got me 2 extra draft picks. So here is the trade that I ended up doing. I traded with the Titans and I got 2 additional picks. So I actually moved from, I forgot to say this. I moved from pick 34 to 35, I swapped with the Titans, and they gave me round 4, pick 120, round 5, pick 141, and a third rounder in 2026. This doesn't really matter because it's probably not going to happen in real life. But anyway, if you're wondering why I have 9 picks instead of 8, that's why. Okay, let's talk about who I picked at number 99. It is defensive tackle, because you knew that was going to be coming up soon here for the Giants. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. So let's talk a little bit about him. He's projected to be a 2nd to 3rd round draft pick. He is a little over 6 foot, 290 pounds. He ran a 4.75 40, which for a defensive tackle, like, I don't need the guy to be running a 4.40. Would be amazing, but 4.75, not horrific. 3-year starter, 2nd team all SEC in 2023. He is a bit more lean for someone who's an interior defensive lineman, but I don't think that is going to affect him negatively. Let's talk through some stats quickly. 2024, he had 36 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 1 pass breakup, 1 quarterback hit, and 1 forced fumble. So he normally plays at a good pad level. He's good at engaging a blocker. I think someone like him is going to be good next to Dexter Lawrence. Quick at the snap, good hands, moves quickly, plays with a lot of energy and hustle. He played from a 5-0 technique in every alignment in between. So the guy has a lot of experience. You know, we talk a lot about Shane Bowen's defense, and I just hate that, like, it's such a conversation because we don't really know, you know, what he's going to end up doing. But anyway, I think that when you have guys who are capable of being versatile, you have to use that to their advantage. So I like the idea of Shamar Turner. I've heard really good things about him, and I would be happy if the Giants went ahead and picked him at 99. So next, at pick number 116, I picked Savion Williams, the TCU wide receiver. Now, I've heard this a bit. I was a big Quentin Johnston fan, and there were so many people who were like, I would never take a TCU wide receiver, and blah, 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 for all these reasons. And I just think it's not really fair to categorize players like that. Like the same people who were like, I would never take Caleb Williams because he's a USC quarterback. I think that you can't really hold these things against these guys, right? Like we're talking about, you know, a lot of players who are coming from Toledo and all these like random schools that are not seemingly random. Like they're not SEC, they're not Big Ten, they're not, you know, the teams that everyone talks about all the time, like OSU and Michigan and Alabama and LSU, but it doesn't mean that they're not worthy, and it doesn't mean that they're not capable of taking it to the next level in the NFL. So little quick thing on Savion Williams, projected to go rounds 1 to 2. He's a little over 6 feet, 222 pounds. He ran a 4.48 40. His stats from last year: 60 receptions for 611 yards, 10.2 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns. They also used him a little bit in the rushing game: 322 yards, 6.3 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns. I believe he was dealing with some sort of injury last year, but he was okay. So this is really interesting about Williams. So he is a good combination of size, speed, and power. He has everything that you're looking for in a wide receiver. I like that he's over 6 feet. Definitely a great athlete. He's tall and long, thick and strong. So even though he's lean, he's very strong. Something that has to be noted here, and maybe this is why people are anti-TCU quarterbacks, is that he played an unconventional role in the TCU offense. He got 46 snaps at quarterback. How do you like that? We have a wildcat guy if needed. 38 snaps at running back, 95 in the slot, and 395 snaps at outside wide receiver. So if you're going after a guy like this, and like I said, I got him at pick 116, I like the idea of a versatile guy. And listen, I love Wan'Dale Robinson. I think he's a great slot guy. I just think his size is a bit of a problem. Like when you're going to throw it to him on 3rd and 5 and he has to go 7 yards, or it's 3rd and 7 and you throw him a 5-yard pass, like he's not making it those extra 2 yards. Part of that is the quarterback. I get that, but also part of it is because he's on the smaller side. So give me a versatile wide receiver who can step in there, you know? And I like the idea of using, you know, Malik on slants and stuff like that. So we'll see what Brian Daboll has going for this offense this year, but time will tell on that. Let's move along to my next pick here. Pick number 150, I have an LSU guard, Garrett Dellinger. So let's talk about him. I'm just trying to figure out what page this is. And I just lost it. Hold on, we got to go to the 30s. So let's talk about Garrett Dellinger. I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't know that much about him, but what I do know is that he was one of the better players on the board at that position, and something that we know, we have talked about, the Giants need some depth there at offensive line. 24, I went to the wrong page. Okay, so let's get into Dellinger. He's in here somewhere. Maybe he's not in here. Am I missing him? He is not in here. So we are going to go ahead and talk about Garrett Dellinger. Now, like I said, this guy is a later round pick, so I'm just going to pull up some brief analysis here so we can get on board and talk a little bit about him. So he is 6'4", 325 pounds, went to LSU. Like we said, he's from Missouri. He's projected to actually be in round 6 to 7, so about where I got him. He comes from an athletic bloodline with a family full of college athletes. How do you like that? Gets out of his stance with proper pad level and firm contact. That to me also means that he has good feet, which is something that when we talk about Evan Neal moving to guard, like, is he going to be able to do that? I don't know. But I like that he's able to move quickly. He's good at keeping his hands inside the opponent's frame and grips tight. And then lastly, fires heavy hands to rattle pass rushers' pads. So for a later round pick, look, if they can get something out of a guy like this versus what they, were able to get out of someone like a Zudu, like at this point, I'll just take it. Just give me someone who's like functional and good as a guard. So let's move along to our last 3 picks here because it's getting a little bit long. All right, I finally went with a quarterback here, and I don't know if you guys are going to love this or hate this, but I picked Dillon Gabriel at pick number 154. He is the quarterback from Oregon. For those of you who don't know much about him, let's just brief summary. He's obviously would not be my top choice for a quarterback, but I'm not on board with Jackson Dart. He's not really my guy. He was available there at 34, and I just was like, I'm not fully into it. And I felt like it was a reach to take Milroe at 34. So I said, you know what? I'm going to wait, and I'm going to get my quarterback later. So Dillon Gabriel is 5'11", 205 pounds. I know that the height thing is a problem for people, and I'm with you on that. Like, I prefer a taller quarterback. We're also used to Daniel Jones and Eli Manning, who are 6'4", 6'5". So having a big quarterback, I think, is important, but for a 6th round pick or a 5th round pick at this point, it is what it is. I don't really think that he's going to end up being a starter, but you never know. His 2024 stats: 326 for 447 for 3,857 yards. His completion percentage was 72.9, not bad. 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, really great ratio. He also had 7 rushing touchdowns, and his quarterback rating was 164.9. So he's a 6-year starter. He dealt with an injury back in 2021. Since then, he's been okay. He finished 3rd in the 2024 Heisman voting. He also won the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year award and an All-American honor. Great playmaker. For 6 years, he averaged over 8 yards per attempt, finished with single digits interceptions, like we talked about, which is really important. And, Dable has talked a lot about how the interceptions are such a problem when it comes to the quarterback. And then, they picked up Jameis Winston. So I don't entirely know. This is why I'm like, I think there's some miscommunications going on. And we're going to talk about this when we talk about Dable's presser tomorrow. But in the meantime, very interesting that he said that. So anyway, he throws a great ball. He did well at the Senior Bowl, comes from Notre Dame, a great football school, excellent on the move, shifty and quick mover who can maintain his arm talent moving in any direction. Obviously, I think the size is probably one of the bigger concerns that a lot of people have about him. But overall, he had a really great career when he was at Notre Dame. He is a good football player. He has some potential coming out in the NFL, but, he's obviously not going to be, I don't know. You never know. But I think his size is going to prevent him from really taking it the next step to being an amazing quarterback. All right, my last two guys here, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about them because honestly, the reasons why I chose them are not football reasons. So at pick number 219, I picked another defensive tackle. I picked Tonka Hemingway from South Carolina. I went to South Carolina at this point. I was like, we need more defensive tackle depth for a 6th round pick or 7th round pick. I'll take him. USC, go Cox. Last up, 246, I picked Howard Cross III from Notre Dame because he is Howard Cross's son. And for those of you who don't know, you should know who he is. He is former player for the Giants, won a Super Bowl, great football player. He still works with the Giants, very invested, involved in the building. And I think that if they picked his son, I would have good faith that Howard Cross, his dad, would be a great mentor to him. And, I think that he really would want to take the pride in being a good Giants football player like his dad was. So those are my reasons for picking those two. Let me know what you guys think about the mock and stay tuned for more.